Hey everyone, it's Jason. So today we have the DC deck building game crossover pack number 2 for Arrow, the television series based on Green Arrow. This is kind of an odd set just because it's the only one with photo pictures and base instead of cartoon instead of drawings. And it follows. It was very early in the Arrow's career, so it maybe goes into I think season 2 at most, season 3, but it doesn't get super far into the series. And they never made another one. I guess if they would have made more or made a follow up thing hey, the CW shows or whatever, and done a set with Flash, and even now because you have Black Lightning, Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, done another one big box set adding some of the other characters and stuff, it would have been cool, a little bit cooler to have this. But now it's kind of I think this is the one that most people are probably going to skip over unless you're just trying to collect everything. At the time though, this is only, you didn't know that they weren't going to make anymore or follow up on this. So here's a little tip card that comes in here mentioning different stuff. Card specific things, clarifications. So this does have some special rules in here. Several cards in the pack will place cards under your superhero. They represent the secrets the characters keep from each other. You may look at cards under your superhero, but not the cards under another player's, unless it says otherwise. End of the game, do not count the VP of cards under your hero. Alright, so let's look at who our oversized heroes are. We, of course, have Moira Queen. At the start of each of your turns, you may discard a card from your hand. If it is an equipment, you may put it under your superhero. If it is not, put a random card from under your superhero into your hand. So essentially, you can go save a card for later. You got I'm assuming his bow will probably be one of the equipment, but it could be any of the ones from any sets. Yeah, so discard it, put it under there, and then you can pull a random equipment later on. We have Harper. Once during each of your turns, you may put a superpower from the lineup under your superhero. At the start of each of your turns, if there are 4 more cards under your superhero, +2 power, and you must destroy the 4 cards under your hero. It's just kind of neat. You pull out 4 free cards, getting extra 2 power 1 turn, but you have to destroy all of them. It's sort of a weird effect because you have to wait bare minimum 4 turns, assuming there's a superpower in every turn. And you must do it, so you can't even activate it when you want. So it's kind of a weird power. Felicity Smoke. If you play 2 or more heroes during your turn, you may put the top card of the main deck under your superhero, or put a card from under your superhero into your hand. It's just kind of neat. You get swap cards around. It's an interesting mechanic, is what it is. John Diggle. When you use a defense skill blading attack, you may put that card under your superhero. Once during each of your turns, you may put a defense card from under your superhero on top of your deck. And then Sarah Lance. When you buy or gain a villain from the lineup, you may put it under your superhero. Once during each of your turns, you may put a villain from under your superhero deck on the bottom of your deck. So, one that does heroes, one that does equipment, one that does superpowers. So it hits all 5 of them. Alright, let's look at our other various cards we're going to get Laurel Lance. You may put a card from your hand under your superhero. If you choose not to, you may put a card from under your superhero into your hand. So this is other cards that work with them. This is the up and down side of this set. It's a neat little gimmick. If it was just the hero cards, you could put them in any deck and they're playing off of themselves. And again, you could use this in any set too, but it's going to be a lot harder. But in conjunction with each other, you're going to get access to them more. So it's kind of it's a neat idea. But being that they never revisited this mechanic in any other set, these cards are only going to be as useful as you can. So if you draw Laurel Lance and you play a card, if you don't have the hero that puts a card under there, then yeah, you could put one under your superhero, but then now that card's stuck under there, and you're not getting that card, you're not getting the bonus from it being with the hero, until you draw this card again, and then you can pull that card out of there. So essentially you're saving it for later until you happen to redraw her again. So without having the bonus abilities that they use or the other cards in the set, that some of these aren't really as worth it. So we have Detective Lance, +3 power. Name a card, then look at under any one foe's superhero, gain that card, that name from under that hero. And that's a really tricky one because you'd have to know what they have. Moira Queen. Look at your top card of the main deck under your superhero. At the end of the game, this card is worth... Put the top card of the main deck under your superhero. At the end of the game, this card is worth 1 VP for each different card under your superhero. Shadow. 1 power and draw a card. Defense. You may put this card under your superhero to avoid an attack. If you do, draw 2 cards and you may put a card from your hand under your superhero. Got some villains. We have Huntress. +2 power. You may destroy a card in your hand or discard pile for each villain you buy or gain this turn. So one that doesn't involve those other effects. The Bronze Tiger. 2 power. Attack. Each foe reveals a card from his hand and puts it under his superhero. If one or more foe does not reveal a card with a cost of 1 or greater, draw 2 cards. Mr. Blank. +2 power and choose a foe. Attack. Look at your cards under that foe's superhero and put one of them under your superhero. Some superpowers. The Mirakuru. If this is the first card you play this turn, you may put it and your hand under your superhero. If you do, draw 4 cards. Otherwise, draw 1 card. So that definitely helps with some of those effects. A Promise to a Friend. Ongoing. +1 power. You may not destroy cards during your turn. You have failed this city. You said like every episode 1,000 times. +2 power and choose a foe. The choosing foe discards a card at random. Got some equipment. Arrows, bow. You may put a random card from under your superhero into your hand if you choose not to. +2 power. Explosive arrow. 1 power. Choose a foe. Attack. Destroy the card under that foe's superhero. Then put this card under your superhero. The Collapsible Staff. Draw a card, gain all villains in the lineup, and put them under your superhero. And we got a location. Verdant, the club. You may, at the start of each of your turns, you may put a card from your hand under your superhero. If you do, draw a card. So definitely, if you're going to play with these characters or these cards, most of them involve the mechanic of putting something under your hero. So you're generally going to want to play these all together, which makes sense for most of these boosters. That's how they're designed. So if you are going to play, pick one of these heroes, take these cards, shuffle them in at bare minimum the top half of the deck. I'd probably even say the top quarter, so that you're getting access to these cards as soon as possible. Otherwise, halfway through the game, you're getting them. It's not going to be as exciting. Alright, then we got some villains. We have Edward Friars. Ongoing. The first time a card tells you to draw 1 or more cards during each of your turns, you may put one of those cards drawing under your superhero. China White. +3 power. You may destroy a card in your hand or discard pile. First appearance. Attack. Each player reveals a top card of the main deck and puts it under his superhero. If it is not a hero, discard a random card. Deadshot. 3 power. Your next attack must be avoided twice. Oh boy. Attack. Each player reveals a top card of the main deck and puts it under his superhero. If it is not a villain, destroy a card with a cost of 3 or less in your hand or discard pile. Count Vertigo. Draw 3 cards and put one of them under your superhero. Reveal. The top 2 cards of your deck. Put one of them under your superhero. Put the other one under the superhero of the player on your left. Malcolm Merlin. +3 power. Defense. You may reveal this card from your hand to avoid an attack. Oh, I love it because you don't have to discard it. attacks each player, reveals the top card of the main deck, puts it under superhero. If it is not in equipment, discard it and gain a weakness. There's a lot of that. Brother Blood. 4 power, draw a card. Each player reveals the top card of the main deck, puts it under the card. If it's not a superpower, discard all cards with a cost of 4 or greater. Isabella Rochev. Choose a player, gain a card from under that player's superhero, then put it into your hand. Each player puts the highest cost card from his hand under his superhero. Which some of that's beneficial, some of that sucks, because they could put it under there, they could use their ability to pull it back out. But on the other hand, it also means they're going to be short a card on their turn. And finally, Slade Wilson. Attack. This attack cannot be avoided. Each player destroys 6 cards with different card types under a superhero. For each card you fail to destroy, discard a card. And he's got the blue back, so he's always the final villain. At 15, that's from 14, so that's some higher cost ones in here. So that is Arrow. What am I doing here? Yeah, it's definitely an interesting set. It's a neat mechanic, though, putting stuff under your heroes. If they would have revisited this in any other set, even if, like, it's a neat mechanic, let's add it into, and as far as I know they didn't. I mean, I guess maybe one of the other expansions they did, but I know they didn't do it in any of the big expansions. But I don't think they revisited this at all. If they would have, and then you could have been like, oh, now I can combine this and this other expansion together and add them in and make more use of this. Cool. But with one keyword, one instance of this, like, 16 cards or whatever. Let's even tell you how many, 22 total cards. That's including the villains, so it's like less than 22, probably like 15, 16 cards. You're not going to be using this ability in conjunction with those cards nearly as often as you would like, unless you really stack the deck. So, like, again, have them like in the top quarter of the deck. So, like, in the first three or four turns, you probably went through all of them. And if you watch my other videos for this, I always compare this a lot to the Marvel Legendary game, and this is one of the things that Marvel that also does that bothers me sometimes. Is they create interesting keywords or mechanics, and it's great. It works in that set. If I only play the characters from that set, as soon as I start taking those characters out of that set and mixing and matching with other ones, which is the idea of the game, those abilities become less and less powerful. And good example of that was Artifacts from the Guardians, which is like the 3rd expansion. And all the Guardian characters had artifacts, and each one had cards that worked with other artifact cards. So they worked great as a team. But then when you start pulling them out, and if you only played with just Star-Lord and didn't include the rest of the Guardians, you could still use his abilities, but they're only going to be affected by his cards, because no other characters had artifacts. So that made it really, the less Guardian characters you used, the less good that ability became, because it relied on drawing more artifacts out, so you're only buying his one type of card. You weren't diversifying your deck enough. But then finally, like 20 expansions or whatever later, they released the Thor set, which had more artifacts. So now you have, the 5 Guardians plus the 5 Asgard characters that all have artifacts. You can mix and match them. It's 10 characters you have. Plus, they added artifacts into the villains that have some. So that if you're using those villains, there's even more of a chance. I know technically the one Fear Itself villain set also had artifacts, but a lot of people don't mix and match that. So, anywho. But yeah, that's the downside of these games, is when you introduce special abilities or keywords or mechanics, but you don't compile on them in later sets, makes it really hard to use them. Alright, so that's Arrow. Check out all the other videos. See you guys later. Bye.